her live and grow, then you will find the heart of America here, in the city of Detroit, Michigan.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered with Sid. Today we're diving into one of the greatest comeback stories happening in America right now, Detroit. The same Detroit that everyone said was done. The same city people use as an example of what happens when an industry collapses and the opportunity just disappears. But that's not the same Detroit we're looking at anymore. Today, Detroit is alive. It's creative, it's bold, it's rebuilding, and honestly, it's one of the most compelling urban stories in the country. So let's talk about how a city that was left for dead in the gutter came back and shocked a nation. For decades, Detroit wrestled with the aftermath of a brutal industrial decline and a shrinking population. Iconic landmarks like the Michigan Central Station and the old Hudson's department store were shut down, turning into symbols of what Detroit used to be and what people thought it would never be again. You see, Detroit's entire economy was built around the automotive industry. Henry Ford's assembly line didn't just change the city, but it changed the world. The city had skilled labor, it had access to the Great Lakes, it had nearby raw materials, and a booming manufacturing identity. But when the automotive industry pulled out, what happened? Because the factories closed, jobs vanished, and the city fell with them. Lower wages and easier expansion into other states pulled these companies away, and Detroit entered a downward spiral that lasted several decades. Here's the thing, Detroit's comeback wasn't just a miracle, it wasn't even luck, it was intention. Detroit started to redefine what it meant to be the Motor City. A new generation of industries began to take over: electronic vehicles, autonomous technology, battery innovation. The city modernized factories and created high-tech engineering jobs. But at the same time, Detroit shifted heavily into the meds and eds sector, becoming a hub for hospitals, research, and universities. Healthcare and education actually became the city's largest economic sector. You see, Detroit wasn't just changing its past, it was building its future. After the 2013 bankruptcy, Detroit got laser focused on restoring the basics and focusing on what mattered most. Things like street lights, transit, and emergency services. Because only after rebuilding their foundation did the real momentum start. Because private and public sectors united behind a common vision. Companies like Ford, GM, and Bedrock started buying and renovating abandoned buildings. Ford's renovation of the Michigan Central Station turned a neglected shell into a massive 30-acre innovation hub. And with federal and state funding supporting housing and infrastructure, the city finally had the stability it needed. Because, you see, this wasn't just money, it was alignment, it was energy, it was momentum. Everybody pushed in the same direction, and that's what made Detroit rise again. But Detroit's revival isn't just happening downtown or in flashy corporate spaces. It's happening in neighborhoods, in block clubs, in land trusts, in longtime community organizations. Because these groups have served as the backbone of Detroit's renewal. Black-owned businesses returned, and restaurants and community spaces reopened again. Detroit's urban farming movement became one of the largest in the entire country, turning empty lots into farms, food hubs, and gardens. And artists, they transformed abandoned spaces into studios, galleries, and workshops. Detroit became an ecosystem of creativity where ideas and innovation can merge. If you want to feel Detroit's comeback, you have to look at its sports scene. The Lions finally become a powerhouse team in the NFL, becoming the NFC 1 seed for the first time last season, and hosting superstars like Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Aiden Hutchinson. The Red Wings are on the rise with a strong start to hockey season. The Pistons are rebuilding with energy, becoming the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference as of this video's recording, turning around their franchise from being a dismal last just 2 years ago. The Tigers have real hope again, with back-to-back playoff berths with players like Javier Baez and Tarek Skubal taking over the MLB. At events like the 2024 NFL Draft, they prove to the world that we are paying attention to Detroit again. Sports reflect culture, and Detroit's sports culture says one thing: we are back. Detroit's rise matters because it defies the narrative of American urban decline. For years, Detroit was synonymous with failure, empty factories, shrinking populations, and broken neighborhoods. But Detroit proved something powerful. Decline isn't destiny. Cities can come back, and even though it's devastating collapse, is never irreversible. Detroit's cultural revival, from artists to entrepreneurs to community leaders, has reshaped how Detroiters see themselves. Pride, ownership, and resilience have rebuilt the city's spirit. And honestly, Detroit has become the blueprint for resilience. A reminder that comebacks aren't clean, easy, or fast, but they are doable. Detroit didn't just rise, it fought for every inch of its comeback. And its story should matter to every city, every community, and honestly, every person going through their own rebuild. Detroit proved that the comeback is always greater than the setback. And that's the message I want to leave you with today. If you're watching Unfiltered with Sid, I'll catch you in the next episode.